Hi there, I'm Andy Skinner, and in this tutorial we're going to be using our favourite place to be stamp, and we're going to be creating some watercolour effect tags. So these are the two girls looking out to the sea. We've got this lovely reflection here that I'm going to show you how to do. Okay, here's another example here. So using very watercolor type techniques with the water-based inks for this. So we will pop down to the desktop and I will show you how it's done. Now for this tutorial we use a mixed media card, a favourite place red rubber stamp. So I'm going to ink the stamp with black archival ink in jet black. Okay, and the reason I'm using archival ink is because it's permanent and we're going to be using liquid ink over the top of this, so we don't want that ink to shift. And make sure you fully ink up the stamp. So a little bit out. This is mixed media card which has a texture. So I'm using a stamp platform because I'm probably going to need to go down twice to get a really crisp image. Okay, so lower the top down, press nice and firmly. And release. Yeah, so I'm definitely going to need to do a second pass with the ink. So ink the stamp up the second time. And do make sure when you're stamping textured paper like watercolor card, mixed media card, your pad is nice and juicy. Okay, you can use re-inkers to re-ink it. Okay, second pass. Yep, perfect. So release the top. Okay, pop the lid back on the ink. And I'll just let this ink dry now and we'll come back for the next stage. So the ink's now set and I'm just going to use a mister. Okay, I'm going to mist the reverse of the mixed media card. And then lay that flat and mist the top. This is going to stop the card from warping. Okay, so now with a soft brush, I'm just going to work that water into the card. Spread it nice and evenly. This is really going to help with the flow of the ink because the card's already saturated with water. Stop the ink sucking into the card and drying up too quickly. Right, first colour we're going to use is turquoise blue. We only want a small drop. There you go. And next colour we're going to use is cobalt blue hue. There's a small drop of that one as well. Okay, so for this I'm going to use a very soft brush, lots and lots of water. This is actually a squirrel hair brush. Okay, so this is a turquoise blue, and I'm just going to flow this into the area of the sky. Because we've got that water saturated into the card, we're not going to get lines in our ink. It will just settle down and flow nicely. So just work that down to the edge, the bottom of the sky. Okay. Right, just clean my brush. And now I'm going to pick up some of the cobalt blue hue and some of the turquoise blue. And we'll mix a little bit of the turquoise blue into the cobalt blue, nice and watery. And then just run this into the sea. Okay, and just try to avoid the two girls there standing. Don't worry too much like with the blue, because if you do get some on the characters, we can use bleach to remove that colour. But try your best just to avoid getting the ink on the characters. Okay, and bring that down to the area of the sand. Okay, wash my brush out. Okay, remove the palette. And now, with some thin bleach and the soft brush, I'm just going to run some bleach into the sky area. Okay. And just with circular motions, I'm just going to start adding a few clouds. There we go. And remember, the mixed media card is quite saturated with water. So that means we're going to get a nice blend into the sky with the clouds. And remember, when you're doing this kind of wet into wet technique, make sure you've got a good heavy duty card or paper. This mixed media card is 350 GSM. You don't want to be doing this effect on like a smooth white cardstock. So make sure you've got a good solid, robust watercolor card or mixed media card. And also with these inks, lots and lots of water. Okay, it's going to be very overpowering if you use these inks neat for this kind of effect, for a kind of a watercolor effect. It's a good idea to have, I call it a crash test dummy. You know, a piece of scrap card by the side that you can test the depth of your color before you go onto the actual piece itself. Okay, so just have like a test piece of card. So when you're mixing the water with the ink, okay, you can just test it first. Okay, so this method of doing the clouds, you're going to get very subtle clouds. And okay, there are other techniques of doing clouds that are far more complex, and maybe we'll get into that in further tutorials. Okay, so we'll leave this to dry. Okay, so the tag's now dry. And what I'm going to do next, this is just clear wax from a candle. And I'm going to use this for a resist technique. So I'm going to rub this over the top texture of the mixed media card in the area of the reflection. This will resist the ink, leaving a white area in the reflection, so I can add detail to that area. Okay. Right. Now here we have a mix of mushroom and a little bit of French mustard added to it for the colour of the sand. And it's very watered down. And with a soft brush, I'm going to run this just along the beach, the sand area. Now this will resist where I've added the wax. Might be hard to see on the camera, but it is resisting there. It'll be more visible when it dries. Okay, I'll add a little bit more water as we work towards the bottom, just to fade this out. Okay, so I'm just going to darken the sand just slightly where the water's hitting the beach. So basically we're adding a second layer. Okay, and now I'm just going to add a little bit of this colour over the sea to give the sea more of an aqua. So as the kind of the yellow brown hits the sea, okay, yellow and blue is going to give you a kind of a green tone. And it kind of ties it in with the colour of the beach and the colour of the sky. Okay, so I'll now leave this to dry. I'm now going to add a little bit of colour into the girls' dresses. Okay, and the first colour is going to be plum. And here's some watered down. And the second colour is a mix of marigold and mushroom. Okay, so pick up some plum, and I'll just start filling in the girl's dress on the right. So I'm using a fine liner brush for this, like a detail brush. I find this great when your detail is quite small. You can be quite accurate with it. And I'm just going to fill in the whole of the dress. Okay, so now with the marigold and mushroom mix, I will fill in the dress of the girl on the left. Now, the reason I've mixed mushroom with the marigold's quite a vivid colour, and I want these colours to be toned down, a little bit muted, to kind of match all the rest of the colours that are on the tag. Okay, so now I'm just going to pick up some more of the plum. It's a little bit darker, and we'll start adding some shadow areas over the girl on the right on her dress. And I try to add these shadows where they'd naturally fall. So if you look at her long hair, there will be a shadow underneath where her hair falls in the creases. Right, just wash my brush out, and then I'll repeat this process now with the mushroom and marigold mix and add shadows to the little girl on the left. Okay, right, this colour is called Buff, and we're going to use this for the skin. So a little drop of that out, and I'm going to use the same brush, the fine liner brush. And gently run this into the legs and the arms and the back and the shoulders of the two girls. Okay. Right, so we'll allow this to dry, and then we're going to start adding more detail. Right, I'm going to start adding detail now. And we're going to use the turquoise that we used earlier. Just pick a little bit up on my brush. Okay, we want this to be very, very watered down. We just want a touch. So now I'm just going to run this into the area of the puddles that formed on the beach that causing the reflection of the little girls. And if you can remember, I used the wax resist, okay, to resist some of the sand colour. Just want to run this in, just give the illusion of water there on the sand. I'm using my liner brush. I'm going to pick up some of the plum and run this into the reflection of the girl wearing the plum dress. Okay, and I will do the same with the girl on the left with the mushroom and marigold mix. Then just add that into their reflection as well. Okay. A little bit more plum. Okay, there we go. Right. I'll just hold that up to the camera. Okay, and we'll carry on with the final stages. Okay, so this is fully dry. Now, these are Posca pens. Okay, they're a white marker pen, permanent. I've got a couple of sizes here. Give them a good shake. Okay, you just want to push down the nib a few times, let the paint release. And we can start adding detail. Okay, so this is a thicker pen. I'm going to add some just to the front of the sea here, like where the sea foam would build up. Add that on both sides. So now with these white paint markers, you'll find the ink bleeds through slightly. I don't actually mind that, and you can use an anti-bleed white acrylic paint if you want a very stark white. Okay, so just add a little bit here in the distance where the waves will probably crash onto this little island here. Okay, so that's a bit thick. I'm going to switch over to the fine one. Give it a pump, release the paint. So I'm going to keep detailing this, just adding fine lines over the breaks in the wave, just above the black lines here. Below the black lines. Okay, just keep going until I'm happy with that. There you go. Hopefully you can see this on camera. Just starting to add the lines there on the wave breaks. Just add a little highlight on the girl's shoulders. Okay, we're nearly there. Right, let's just hold this up to the camera. You can see some of the detail there. There we go. So some basic techniques there, especially if you're new getting started to the inks on how to use them. Okay, so all we need to do now is trim the corners. And finally, using my corner punch, I'm just going to round these edges. And I think to finish off, I'll probably punch a hole in and add some ribbon or some sari silk. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining me in this tutorial. And I hope you like it, and I will see you all in the next one. Thank you.